Man, it felt like deja vu a little bit, where it went down to the very end, like just kind of sitting around waiting, trying to figure out what was going to happen. Was hearing from a couple different people about, hey, you could end up here, you could end up there, and ultimately, like, I've really enjoyed my time with Detroit, and what those guys were able to do in the second half and the run that they made, I think surprised a lot of people. I don't really think it surprised me. I sat with AJ afterwards and talked to him about the group that they had there and what they were doing, and you could see it, and it was just about it kind of coming together. So what they were able to do, tough for them today. Scoob has been unbelievable all year, and it came down to one swing, but I had an unbelievable time there, and then to be here in this situation that we're in is special. So to be here with LA and to come home, there's really no words for it. It was just trade deadline was just a big waiting game to see kind of how everything happens.
Next one for Jack. We'll go to Clinton, third row in the middle.
What did you know about Doc before you got here, and what do you think of him now as a manager in terms of everything that's happened, managing the staff and all that, and just in general as a guy and as a skip?
Yeah, I didn't know a whole lot about him, like, as a person. I knew he was intense, and he really cared, and he was just somebody that cared, and he looked out for people. I talked to him a little bit last year when they came to St. Louis, because I was probably going to get moved. There was a potential to come here, and we talked for a little bit, but I know that he just appreciated when I came over here. He told me he appreciated just the way that I go out and compete, and to kind of keep that same thing, keep that going. So, and then what he's been able to do, and the way that hats off to our guys and the way that they threw the ball the rest of that series. Our bullpen was amazing, but you got to give a lot of credit to him as well with the way that guys were brought in and put into situations to succeed. And just be put in those right situations, and he's got confidence in everybody that he runs out there. Even lineups too. Kike has been unbelievable. So you got to give him a lot of credit, and he shows up and he's ready to work, and he cares. When he comes around and watches us throw and is over there, and you can feel his energy and his presence, and he's been a lot of fun to play for.
Go to Jack in the second row on the right.
Yeah, if you had to roughly guess over the last 3 or 4 days, how many times has Kike used an F-bomb with you guys?
Yeah, I think that's part of. I don't want to say like it's part of sports, but you get locker rooms are a place, and he's fired up on in an interview after the game, like. It happens, guys. It just comes out sometimes. You're excited and things happen. That was an emotional series. Like, a lot emotions were running high, and everything. So, but you gotta let Kike be Kike.
This isn't always a team that in years past has had this kind of edge, especially this time of year. Just what have you made of the persona of this group since you've gotten here, and how much does that kind of stuff matter? Like, you've been on playoff teams before. Like, how much does that matter when you get in these kind of environments and you are facing elimination and being able to respond from that kind of spot?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak on prior teams. I don't necessarily know that it's true that they haven't had any edge, because it's a good amount of the same guys. Obviously, there's a couple guys here that are different, but I think just because a team loses doesn't really mean that they don't have any edge. So I think you're seeing a lot of it. You're seeing it from the guys that come out of the pen one after the other, and the way that they go out and fill up the zone, and same thing with the lineup, one after the other, picking each other up. The way Mookie was able to bounce back after a rough first 2 games, but I also don't know if we'd be saying that his second game was rough if that first inning home run ends up not getting robbed. So I think that these guys have shown a lot of fight, and weirdly, having not a lot of people believe that we had any chance in that last series, and picking that team, which is, again, a great team. But I think that stuck with a bunch of guys, and hoping we keep that same energy, going forward into this next series.
Come over here to the far left, and then we'll hit Ken in the middle.
Jack, how would you say that starting pitching in the postseason has evolved since you first pitched in the postseason in 2019?
I think it's a little bit of the same. It's been. I think you saw it last night with Darvish, where you ride the hot hand, and if it's always kind of been a quicker hook when you get into the postseason. That's just kind of the way it is. I've seen guys go super deep into games like Darvish did yesterday, and but I think when you get into those, you get deeper into the series, and you get into those must-win games, like those hooks become quicker, just because it's you just don't always have your great stuff every day. So when I look back on some of the starts that I've seen in 2019, the guys that went deep into games, like they all were shoving from the get-go. I look at Fultonevich in 2019 Game 2, he shoved, and then I look into that NLCS against Washington on both sides. Anibal shoved, Miles shoved. You look at Game 2, Scherzer and Waino both went 7+, and then like Game 3, like I got pulled because we were down 4-0. Obviously, it was different settings where you had to. There was no DH, so my spot was coming up and I had to hit for me. But I've also seen, I also thrown deeper into games. So I think it's just a matter of reading guys' stuff, and it's a tough job as a manager to figure out, like how long do I stay with this guy? Do I go to my bullpen? We've got more games in the series, but then once it gets towards the end of the series, it's like, okay, there's no saving guys at that point. It's just, if guys feel good, everybody's going to throw. And it's kind of been all hands on deck, and I think you've seen a little bit more all hands on deck this postseason from teams in terms of a lot of bullpen games and a lot of just like, hey, we're going to throw everybody out there, and we're trying to win every game. So it's interesting the way it goes, but like I said, when guys are rolling, you see them, they stay in there longer.
Just a quick follow-up. Does your purpose change? Do you empty the tank earlier? Do you go harder early?
I don't know about empty the tank early, but it's on go from pitch one, and it pretty much is that way during the regular season. But you might see a little bit more, jumps in velo and stuff when you get into those tight situations. But every pitch matters, and everything's just amplified when you get into playoffs. So you want to come out and start strong and just keep going from there.
Go to Ken, third row in the middle.
Jack, last night before the game, what were you told your availability was, the plan was for you?
Last night was in case of emergency, and I was told, we win this game, you're going to throw Sunday, but it's in case of emergency. And in those situations, I don't necessarily want to be in the dugout and then try to mentally get in the mode of okay, if things start going south or going a certain way and the trajectory of the game changes, I don't want to have to mentally try to lock in at that point. So I just went down to the pen to try to stay in that mindset, and then can start to check out a little bit as you see Yoshi go out and do what he did, which was incredible, especially against that team. And then the bullpen guys, one after the other, and hats off to Kopech coming in that situation. After Vesey has to come out, that's not easy in any situation, and especially in a playoff game in the eighth inning, up 2-0. So, for me, it was be locked in case something happens. Just so it's a lot easier to go from locked in to kind of relaxing a little bit, supposed to going from relaxed to okay, you know what? Now we got to lock in. It's the seventh, eighth inning. That doesn't really work for me.
Go to Adam here in the second row on the left.
Jack, I know you got to come to a lot of games here when you were young. Are there any strongest memories of being in this ballpark? And were there any playoff games mixed in there, early in your minor league time?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which games really stick out that I've been to. I know that the game that does stick out happens to be, it was 2015 against the Mets when Chase went into Ruben Tejada hard. I think I was at both of those games and watching Syndergaard and DeGrom throw, and those were special arms. And so I can remember those playoff games. Those were a lot of fun. I was just getting into pro ball, but came with my little brother, who he was like, I'm going to be a Dodgers fan until you happen to make it, and then we can reassess from there. So he's happy that he gets to cheer for these guys, like for the Dodgers again. So I mean, I'm trying to think of other games that I can think on that I've been here for, but those two stick out the most to me.
Go to Fabian, fourth row on the right side.
Yeah, Jack, having been down in the bullpen for the last couple of games, what have you maybe learned about that group? Or is there appreciation that you've sort of developed, especially watching Game 4 and how that bullpen game kind of unfolded?
Yeah, I mean, those guys were incredible. And they're together. They're a really cohesive group, and you see that the way that they interact out there, and you see them being together. I didn't really want to mess with it. I kind of just stayed off to the side and was in my own like little world and trying to just watch the game and stay as focused as I felt I needed to. But they're together, and I think that's what you see out of really good bullpens, and they pick up after one another, and you see that in starting rotations too, where one guy goes out and does it, and then the next guy picks up off that. So we're gonna try to ride off of what Yoshi did the last game, and not try to do too much. And I think there's been an element of maybe trying to do a little too much and, letting emotions get in the way of things and just trying to go out and play our game and continue to do that.
So you didn't take part in any of the typical bullpen games or anything like that?
No, I did not. I would talk a little bit here and there, but I kind of wanted to stay and just let them do whatever they want to do and not try to mess with the vibe down there too much, because they were really good. They were really high, and the guys were rolling, and you just want to keep that going. Especially again with what Brage did in that to start the game in Game 4 was incredible, and the guys just picked up after that. It was awesome.
All right, we'll go to John. Back to John on the right.
Your performance suggests you are completely 100% healthy. There was some suggestion at the deadline of some minor issue. How are you feeling? And any thought on, obviously it came out. Nothing you do about it.
No, yeah, there was that came out. I felt great. We had the little hiccup in the middle of the year there, and the Tiger staff did an amazing job of helping me, of giving me some of the time I needed without having to put me on the IL, and they navigated through, maybe like a 2-week stint there where I was dealing with some things and pitched through some pain, but since then I've been great. Whatever the reports were the reports, but I've been great. I've been healthy, and nothing has affected my performance. I just think I've been trying to do a little too much, and just here on going forward, not trying to be perfect and go out and pitch my game. And let the results happen, but focus on the process and the days in between, and making sure that I'm just mentally locked in and focused, not trying to do too much.
Come to Barry in the front.
Hey Jack, what do you know about the Mets and what's been going on with them? And around Labor Day, they looked like they weren't going anywhere, and they've been probably the hottest team in the league the last 2 months.
Yeah, you get to this point in the season, or you get to this point in the year, everybody that's still playing is a really good team. And so what they've been able to do, especially to go in and beat a really good Phillies team, and also beat a really good Brewers team, and just what they've been able to do in the second half with their lineup, their pitching, their bullpen. It's a good group. It's a really good team, and it makes for a good series. So, you're expecting the best, and at this point they've been really good. But that's what baseball is. That's what baseball is for. That's why we play 162, because you can go through a little cold stretch maybe in the beginning, and then the guys start rolling, and it's for them. It hasn't stopped.
So, obviously it's the nature of the playoffs, but how do you abruptly shift from what you were doing against the Padres to now getting involved in a longer series against the Mets?
Just continue to do what we've been doing, which is throwing the ball really well, timely hitting, allow some guys to relax a little bit and just go out and play. I think, there was some tension going on in that series. It was 5-game series is a little tighter and whatnot, and maybe guys relax a little bit and just go out and play our game and just continue to keep that energy up. After playing in an emotional filled series with San Diego, and but to take that and continue to roll with it, and keep rolling into Sunday and then on into New York.
I think it was easy in the sense of when he was lined up, his start days and all that stuff, and I didn't feel good about him pitching out of the pen. So kind of not by default, but it just made the most sense. And we're still talking about game 2, game 3, trying to figure out, we have a lot of good options, but right now, anything's on the table for game 2.
Is there anything new on Vesia?
It's a side intercostal situation. He feels good. I don't know what he's going to do today, so I would say that it's highly unlikely that he's active for this next series, but we'll see.
Are there any other changes you're kind of anticipating along with that?
We'll kind of, I want to kind of see how the guys, mainly Rojas, how he moves around today. I think on the pitching side, obviously, if Alex is not on the roster, we're going to have to make a decision. But I think that's about it right now.
Jack, the second row.
Is Tony somebody who's an option for you guys, especially if you need more length in a longer series like this?
I don't think Tony's an option. He possibly could be. He's here, so he's on the table. So I will kind of digress. He's an option. We've got some other guys, obviously, that we've had, but Tony's an option. He's in there.
And if you stick with Yama's schedule, I think that means he'd only be able to go one time in the series. Is that what you guys are kind of anticipating at that point as you build the schedule?
Yeah, I just think that it's one of those things where with Yamamoto versus any other starter, their regular routine is their regular routine, and any deviation would be short rest. And so he hasn't done that. So I think, to your point, is like we'll probably keep him on track.
And then with Freddie, is the ankle progressed at all over the last week, or going into this series, is it the same thing where you guys got to read it out every day? And is it a spot where you might look for another day to give him a break if you can stack a couple off days or something like that?
My goal is, and I think Freddie would say the same thing, is to play in every game. Certainly we have a day after night game. He feels better today than he did yesterday, so I think that's encouraging. So I think like my message to him is let's not get too far ahead of things and let's worry about the day at hand. And so right now I feel very confident that he'll be in there tomorrow, and then we'll kind of see where that goes.
How much relief was there when he came in your office yesterday and said he was good to go?
I had a little smile on my face because certainly with where he's been, it's been dicey. So for him to give me the final thumbs up an hour before game time was very nice to see.
We'll come to Andy on the fourth row on the left here. Andy, we'll get you a mic coming from behind.
What's up, Dave?
Hi, Andy.
What have you thought of, or what have you seen from Shohei's at-bats since Game 1?
Well, I'll tell you this, is I don't know what it's like facing my childhood hero, idol. Obviously, that's a better question for Shohei as far as the emotions behind that. I'm sure something might have bled into kind of, because he did chase more than he has. And so I don't know if it was the Darvish factor. So suffice to say, I'm happy that we've rid ourselves of you, Darvish, and we can sort of move forward. But I think that kind of, to your question, I think he's just been more outside the hitting zone than he has in the last, call it 6 to 8 weeks.
And Kike, after the game, I don't know his exact words, he basically described it as a group of fellas who don't give a hoot about things. And I'm just wondering, like, with a team, right, like, how do you strike the balance between, in games like this, providing, having the necessary preparation, being, sort of locked in, and also playing free within the moment and embracing that?
I think that, well, I think the one part of it is, I did see the quote. So I think the one part of it is, I do feel that our guys kind of can feel everyone picking everyone against us. and us being sort of an afterthought. And I think we have a pretty good ball club. And so guys took it rightfully so personally. And so certainly Max and Kike voiced their thoughts. And so that's one part of it. And I think for us, it's like right now, it's continue to have that edge that we had, because these guys are playing really good baseball. They've got a good thing going as well, and we can't let off the gas. And so I think we have a very talented team, but I still don't mind that kind of underdog fighter mentality.
Let's go to Bill, about 5 rows back in the middle.
Yeah, what would it take for Gonsolin to be on the NLCS roster?
Well, you know, Tony, if you look at kind of Tony's pitch mix experience, he makes sense. I think that, you know, it's a heavy right-handed team, but again, his pitch mix makes sense. He's a balanced pitcher. I think we've got to organizationally decide if it's worth putting him in stress and protect against downside, his future next year. So I think that's sort of weighing that with alternatives. And so, like I said, he's in the mix, but we've got to be very kind of convicted that he's the right decision if we are going to activate him.
And have Joe Kelly or Gratterall recovered enough that they're options?
They're not going to be options. Those two are not options.
Do you anticipate asking as much of your bullpen in this round as you did last round, or we're going to see a bullpen game or two?
There's certainly a possibility for a bullpen game or two, but with that, we're going to have to ask innings from other guys. That's just the reality. So I don't think that in a 7-game series we have the luxury to kind of max out guys like we did from the pen in a 5-game series.
Go across the aisle to Eric.
Dave, I guess what the other person on the injured list who's eligible now, Brent Honeywell, how's he doing? Is he an option?
Brent is an option. He's been staying sharp in the sense because he's been pitching to our hitters on off days. He's still got this finger thing, but he's certainly in the mix too.
He kind of serves, or whoever it is, like could serve a length role, like due to the the longer series, the middle 3, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So the length, the 2-3 innings, neutral, keep you in a ball game sort of thing makes sense, and that kind of fits, what he's done for us.
With Rojas, if I guess playing through what you're looking for from him, what would be the other options you have if he's not able to go?
I think the other options would probably be Kiermaier, James Outman, something like that.
Go to Clinton on the right side, 4th row.
Dave, a lot is made about the decisions, buttons pressed, guys being put in certain places between staff and so forth. I mean, but the number of scoreless innings you guys got out of that last series, I don't want to ask this in a certain way, but did that go as well as you thought, better? I mean, that was about, from a self-assessment standpoint, it's probably as good as it was going to get for the decisions being made.
It couldn't have went any better, and those guys really stepped up and just did everything and more than we could have hoped for. To shut that team out for 24 straight innings is near impossible, and we did it in fine fashion. And so, but to the question earlier is, I just don't see that playing out again in a 7-game series. So I've got to lean on other guys to cover some innings, or expecting a little bit more out of the starters. But what they did, I couldn't have hoped for any more.
Go to Russell, also in the 4th row.
Dave, you and Carlos Mendoza have a lot of parallels in your first year in the big leagues. Both of you, as managers, both of you guys got to the NLCS. But I'm curious, when you manage in the big leagues or in the postseason for the first time, is there something that you don't expect that doesn't affect you in the regular season that when you get to the postseason, it's like, oh, this is something that you don't plan for?
Yeah, I think in the postseason, looking back, things happen quickly. It's every game is, obviously of the highest importance. The roles are different. Just trying to figure out what you can ask of a player, whether it's multiples, stress, leverage is different in the regular season versus the postseason. I remember, obviously, in my first year, I remember bringing Clayton Kershaw in a game in relief, and he was sort of ailing and feeling good, but not feeling good. So that was nerve-wracking for me. I remember walking the bases loaded to get to Montero, who hadn't taken in a bat in 8 days. It's a 0-2 slider for a homer, and we got beat. So, but I think to your question is like just trying to think about a lot of different scenarios, and the game speeds up, and really having a lot of people around you to kind of help slow the game down and kind of think through a lot of different scenarios.
Dave will go straight back, just beyond the camera.
Hi, Dave. What's your impression of Kodai Senga, tomorrow's starter?
You know what? I just don't know Senga very much. I really don't. So I do know that his last outing was 2 innings, 31 pitches. So my assumption is they're going to try to get him through 3 innings. Obviously, he was probably their ace coming into the season. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but I don't know him very well. I'm learning him right now.
Thank you.
2 more. We'll go to Mike on the right and finish with Barry.
Dave, do you have any more details on Gavin Stone's shoulder surgery?
I don't, DG. He had a shoulder surgery, successful, identified a lot of stuff that was going on in the shoulder. Don't see him coming back in 25.
With Vesia maybe out, how much more important does Anthony Banda become? And is there any other, do you want another left-hander in the pen? Is there some other option there?
We have a couple options, that we've had that are on the roster that are viable. It's really not a left-handed kind of heavy hitting team, but again, we still got to talk through it. But obviously, losing Alex potentially is brutal. It sucks. He's a big part of what we do. But yeah, we're just gonna have to find somebody else to step up. Hey, Barry.
Doc, how are you?
Doing well, Barry.
So, a couple of quick questions. Coming off an emotional series with the Padres, who you've seen often, how do you make the adjustment to now just try to lock in on the Mets, who you haven't really seen much of all year and in a while?
Well, I'll tell you this. We saw these guys earlier. They're a completely different team than we saw. They're playing considerably better. Lindor is back to being Frankie. They've just got a lot of confidence. And so we've got to play good baseball. So for me, I just don't see it much different outside of the fact that they're 2 different ball clubs, but we have to come with the same intensity, focus, and energy that we had this last series.
Do you think that the nature of the series and the nature of the way that Padres series kind of like transpired created that energy? I mean, and it's going to have to be recreated again.
I think we actually created it before the series. I really do. I don't think that was a result of winning the series. I think that we had that, from pitch 1, game 1, and I expect it to kind of build from here.
And finally, on Yamamoto, would you be more comfortable running him out a little longer now? Last night, obviously, 68 pitches. He was pitching well. You said last night it was time to turn it over to your bullpen who'd been pitching well. But would you see going a 6th inning with him if he's pitching that well?
I would, yeah, I would. And I think that I just haven't, Yoshi just hasn't been into the 6th inning, the 5th inning in quite some time. And then you're layering in on postseason high-intensity pitches. And then you've got guys behind him. So all that stuff played the factor in my decision-making. But yeah, going forward, and now he's kind of checked that box. And if he continues to throw the ball the way he did, certainly I would keep extending him.